Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the head of the Story of Illuminations, and one half of the Adventures of the Monk and the Monarch, every month on his channel. Good brother Monarch.
And it is good to be back, this time to talk about Spartans in space.
A whole lot more than just Spartans, but that is going to be covered. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that there were a few 300 jokes that got tossed around when this first came out and I started seeing reviews on it. But we are at a new season, a new beginning for us. Obviously a new look, which kind of got previewed. And the big thing is, you're seeing my PDF viewer behind us. Just with all the top and bottom stuff off, so that it's only focusing on the important bits. But it's not going to be one static image throughout. The only reason it was a static image during the last one was because I had to honor an agreement. And if anyone brings up that they'd prefer not having the pages shown for this, just let me know and I will adjust that. Unless you're WotC, in which case I will ignore it and repost it elsewhere. Because that whole DMCA thing they did on people doing page throughs because they didn't tell people what they could and couldn't do was really dumb. Because I'm pretty sure the people who are doing those page throughs, if you told them, "Oh, you can't do that as part of the agreement," that whole mess wouldn't have happened. And Dragon saying, "So when does Zan get his new form?" As far as I'm aware, Zan hasn't expressed any interest in setting up a VTuber model, and I am not inclined to shell out for him to get one. Especially since I don't know if he even has a webcam, and I have not bothered to ask, because it's not my business. But, as I said, we are back at it with Hellas. Now, this is a game that is using the Omni system, which I have affectionately nicknamed D20 Pure, because the D20 is the only thing you're rolling. This isn't like the so-called D20 system where that's the main thing you're rolling, but a bunch of side stuff is brought up as well. No. All roads lead to the D20 if random chance is being done. It is very heavily inspired by Talislanta in that regard. And I was tempted to bring up Atlantis when it comes to it, because that's kind of the golden child with that system, but I decided I've been doing way too much fantasy lately. I need to do some SF leaning stuff, and Hellas is definitely going to fit that bill. But
Said I think this might be my first dipping into just like the pure D20.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if don't recall covering anything like that on previous episodes of Valley with you. Yeah, I've certainly not played one.
To my knowledge, no. The only thing close to this sort of pure D20 that I've covered on the temple, aside from when I interviewed Jerry Grayson some years back, would probably be I don't know. Probably be Fading Suns, and that was Fading Suns Revised. That was before 3rd edition came out, so I don't really count that. But obviously we have that little paragraph and the setup. But first we have the prologue, which is a nice little short story. Because of the fact that we focus on mechanics, we won't be going over that. Instead, we'll be going over Hellas. And right now, I'm gonna say this. I feel like there's something a bit off with how the text is. At least for me. Let me try something. I want to see if the attempt to do a dark mode may have screwed things up a bit. Because I'm pretty sure it's not the text isn't showing as gray on your end.
No, it's black. Like, I open it up in just, what is it, the Microsoft Edge, which is, these PDFs are the only thing I use Microsoft Edge for. And they come out looking good here.
Yeah, hang on a second. It's being a bit slow. But I gotta go into the settings.
He's tooling around with that for a bit. One thing I'll note that we're going to see here in a few pages, there have been several times through previous episodes we've looked at words and just kind of went, neither one of us were confident in its pronunciation. There is like a good-sized pronunciation guide in this one, about a page and a half of just pronunciations for all the different weird names. This pleases me greatly deep down in my soul.
Yeah, trying to find what. And hello, Phoenix. Trying to...
Yes, if you just hopped in, we're working out a technical difficulty with the page view right now.
Yep.
Well, I should say Mildred's trying to work it out. I have no idea what he's doing over there.
Mm-hmm. So hold on a sec. I had to in order to get it to properly fix itself, I had to reset my my PDF reader. So give it a moment. I wouldn't be a VTuber if I didn't have scuff. So let me see about doing fit width, because otherwise that text is going to be way too small. I know the text looks small on screen, but remember, doing the best we can with this. But it opens up with saying, what is Hellas? Hellas is an epic generational space opera that spans 100 years of the fourth and final age of the Hellenes, a spacefaring race that has warred for control over their galaxy for countless millennia. The player characters are heroes who will set off to save their worlds from an ancient threat. They will live, triumph, suffer, and eventually die as heroes, either achieving apotheosis and ascending into immortality or succumbing to their fate. Hellas is greatly inspired by the heroic stories of ancient Greece and uses Greek-inspired language, themes, and tropes. However, Hellas is not Greek, nor is its characters presumed to be living in some distant future or bygone past based on our own reality, any more than a fantasy RPG based on European mythologies based on real medieval Europe. It's kind of funny that a lot of people conveniently forget that part. But after that are the 12 revelations. I do like that they hit the ground running with this kind of thing.
Yes.
What is Hellas about? What do the characters do in Hellas? What is the resolution mechanic of Hellas? How does character creation in Hellas reinforce what the game is about? How do players contribute to the Hellas story? How does Hellas setting reinforce what the game is about? What should Hellas make the players feel when playing? What type of behavior / styles of play does Hellas encourage? Where does Hellas take the players that other games don't? What does Hellas do to engage the players' attention? Why should they care? What are the publishing goals for Hellas? Who is Hellas's target audience? And then we have a list of inspirations, basically the Appendix N. And there's some interesting things that it puts in here. Age of Bronze, Bulfix Mythology, the Iliad, 300. When it comes to movies and television, bringing in Hercules was inevitable, as well as Xena. Bringing in Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans, and I will fight anyone on this. Clash of the Titans is overrated. Like, everybody keeps telling me it's Ray Harryhausen's masterwork. No. Sinbad is Ray Harryhausen's masterwork. Though Jason and the Argonauts is the close second. Let's see. Music.
So interesting to see a music inspiration segment, but
yeah, something that I think a lot of designers should consider, and it's something that I've considered, is trying to set up a kind of soundtrack or a playlist for a given game to kind of nail down the tone. Mork Borg does it. I think the guy who did Distal also did it, and Max, the guy behind Against the Dark Master, definitely did it. He did it twice. But although I do have to call out one thing, calling Dynasty Warriors a Konami video game.
Because they just published it, right?
Konami was never involved.
Huh. Who is the publisher for Dynasty? Oh, Koei Tecmo.
Yeah. So,
slight typo, guys, but that's fine.
Yeah, I had to call that out. It wouldn't be me if I didn't call that out. Also, they bring up GURPS Greece and Mythic Greece, which are both good books, as well as Exalted. Probably, given the time frame this came out, probably Exalted, maybe first or second. Aegon, which has recently gotten a second edition. I may cover that one day. Nine Worlds is an interesting choice, but it's one that I don't have time to get into right now, because Nine Worlds is a rabbit hole. I'll put it that way. See, then what do I need to play? And we have a glossary.
I kind of like having the glossary right at the beginning.
It's not far removed from, say, the lexicon that White Wolf put in the front of all of their books. But there's a lot of terms in the glossary, and we'll get into them. And then we have the pronunciation guide. And
I mentioned earlier,
I'm reminded of that one Slavic project that I covered a while back, where I was fucking up every bit of pronunciation. Not intentionally, not out of malice. It's
Slavic.
Yes. Slavic languages are the bane of my existence. And I had told him after the fact, put in a fucking pronunciation guide, because if I'm having trouble, I guarantee the majority of people buying it in English are going to have trouble. Because what's the odds you're going to find somebody who is sufficiently bilingual in Polish and English to get the translation to get the pronunciation down, and that's just one person. Now you got to worry about the whole table.
But I'll say before we go too far along, I know we just kind of went over the highlights on the 12 Revelations. I think 9 is worth reading. Where does Hellas take players that other games don't?
Yep.
Hellas takes the players through several generations of the heroes and his descendants' lifespan, and eventually gives them the opportunity to save the universe. The character the player starts the game with will almost certainly not be the one they end with. All characters are fated to die.
Which, given that, I'm surprised on the other games list that Ars Magica wasn't brought up because, well, you're expected to play multiple characters in Ars
Yeah.
Magica. Of course, if I want to go that far, I could have asked why Paranoia wasn't brought up because you're not expected to die in Paranoia. You will die, and you will die very quickly and very stupidly.
But yes, here I think it's more the going through generations and descendants.
Mm-hmm.
That is something I've not come across with myself in a tabletop before. So that's a really unique looking feature to me.
Yeah.
How that's going to play out, I'm unsure, but I think it's worth bringing up here.
Mm-hmm. Now, after that, we have the first chapter, and let me check something when it comes to. Yeah, okay, we're good. And this first chapter is primarily going into the background and the history, having the different parts in the timeline, as well as I also appreciate these little diary entries and the way they have the timeline set up in this kind of data pad on the sides here.
It is a very nice bit of flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And just glancing through, it's pretty easy to read and follow as well.
Yeah.
Similarly, chapter 2, it's mostly just society, government, so a lot more fluff.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have like a lot of nice charts for creating unknown planets or systems. Like a D20 to determine the style of government,
Mm-hmm.
various things like that.
Yeah.
All kinds of things on culture, education,
Yeah.
relationships, cuisine, technology.
Yeah, and obviously chapter 2 opens with Hellene society, and when it comes to the type of governments, it points out when encountering a new or unknown system or one that has undergone recent turmoil, civil war, unrest, etc. Roll on the following table. They say chart, but I end up saying table out of habit, and select the form of government that currently predominates. So, in order, we have machinocracy, ruled by machines; technocracy, ruled by those who are most technically skilled; monarchy, self-explanatory; theocracy, also self-explanatory; kleptocracy, ruled by the wealthy; plutocracy, ruled by judges who make decisions based on interpretation; plutocracy, ruled by wealth; oligarchy, ruled by a few individuals chosen; democracy, self-explanatory; aristocracy, also self-explanatory; meritocracy, deemed by those deemed most worthy of ruling; democracy, ruled by property owners; critocracy, ruled by judges based on ideas of equal justice; tyranny, ruled by an individual; autocracy, ruled by a single elected individual; and anarchy, no ruling party. And it also brings up what forms of government would be in certain planets. Like the Amazorans are an aristocracy. The Gorgians are a meritocracy. The Hellenes have elements of plutocracy, oligarchy, and democracy, and so on.
Democracy.
And after that, there's also a section on crime and punishment and a chart on what crimes will get what fine and or what sentence, as well as how that can be modified with special circumstances. And I say and or because some crimes will have a fine and a sentence. Let's see. For example, counterfeiting / forgery. The fine is Um, 1d20 times 300 and 1d6 years. Although whether the sentence is jail or hard labor, I think is going to vary. In fact, all of the crimes are broad categories.
This book lied to us. It mentioned earlier you'd only need a D20, and now we have all these charts with the D6.
I am disappointed. I kid. But then after that we have a bit of a thing on slavery, then a thing on culture, specific starting with the religious practices, and there's quite a bit. Uh, then on education, then on relationships, and a sidebar about heroic offspring. Uh, and see, we also have a thing on cuisine, and when it comes to the cuisine, I should note there was an entire supplement book that was just various Greek recipes. That's how I first found out about Mosca. Mosca is, I guess the best way to put it is essentially a comfort food in parts of Greece. Think of something like a layered lasagna like thing, but using eggplant. Yes, I know that Kentucky Ballistics has that gag about nobody likes eggplant, but eggplant's actually not that bad. Uh, let's see. After that, we have a thing on the military structure, and then some of the different factions. The first one is the Delphoi region. Not region, legion. I don't know why I said it that way. Uh, including their code, their structure, their philosophy, and rumors. And then there is the Phantalsa, the Cosmic Ulsi, or Slip Space. Basically the means to do FTL travel in this universe. And I get as far as a parallel, I guess I could say it's somewhat akin to lightspeed travel in like Star Wars, but that's not entirely the case. This is a type of FTL travel where you are traveling into some sort of subdimension, uh, and then emerging at a different point. And incidentally, anytime I've ever interviewed anybody about any sort of space opera, especially interstellar ones, how FTL travel works is one of the primary questions I ask them. Largely because, largely because it's one of those things that if you're going to have people on multiple planets, you need to illustrate how they get on those planets. But when it comes, but the main way that that you go in is through use of aether and use of what's known as slip sails, which I do want to read that off. When entering slip space, a ship fires large cables with a small etheric force screen emitters. Once activated, the screens light up with the charge of etheric energy and propel the ship forward. These sails are mere energy projections, and if the emitter is damaged, it may no longer function properly. Ships without a slip sail, or with a malfunctioning slip sail, may travel on slip space drives alone, however, movement is decreased by half and maneuverability by 75%. In combat, captains often target enemy ships' slip sails to disable their ability to flee. So this is how you can have not um almost nautical looking ships with sails in space. And the area that they go into has 3 layers known as the strata. And the strata, as you can see here, is divided between the shore, the open sea, and the nether region. Oh. Which is basically how far away you are from normal space. And going into the nether regions could certainly be profitable for some, but it's also dangerous. And here you have an example of a ship with slip sails. And you're probably thinking of Count Dooku's ship, aren't you?
I haven't seen the prequels in so long, I don't even remember what that looks like.
But... And some of this we will end up covering when we get to ship combat later on in this series. And after going a bit further into ships, as well as getting passage on ships, we have this nice little spread about the known worlds and the regions that they are in, as well as a map of the universe. And I do have the larger map, which is nice. Maybe I'll consider trying to make it into a full-on poster. But it is going into the planets along several of the constellations. Each of them has a chief system, a chief race, a primary government, a chief deity, a temple moon, and key personalities within them.
Now, as this is a bit too in the weeds for what we normally cover here, I will just say there's a lot of good detail on each one of these were we to read through them all individually.
Mm-hmm. But
this is exactly what you'd want out of something like this.
Yeah. So, given that it's introducing something very unique, covering it in any other way would be tricky. It has to introduce when you're dealing with science fiction, you have to introduce a lot of new concepts, just in general. So it's completely understandable that it takes the approach it does. And I know this is going to be a short one, but if I'm being honest, the introduction chapters are always short ones. And we ended up having to skim through 72 pages worth of material to kind of set the stage. Because next time when we do this, we are going to be diving headfirst into the
actual character creation.
Yep. And once that happens, that's where we get into the interesting stuff, because the character creation is somewhat free, is a life path system, but also there's a little bit of freedom, but not it's not going full on. Here's a few dozen points, have at it. Thank God for that. Because you know that I'm not a big fan of that after my experiences with, say, Shadowrun. Much as I love Shadowrun, I'm not going to be afraid to call it out when it fucks up. But again, this is a case where things are where it was important to establish a lot of that, and we could have gone into some parts of it, but again, the crunch is what takes precedent when it comes to how we cover things, because there's not really a whole lot that we from that perspective can dissect when it comes to the explanation of the worlds or the like.
And to be fair, I think at the end of the day, with like all the fluff, because of how much a DM is going to do in most games, the fluff kind of comes down to, is it enough to help the DM create a game in this world? The moment you answer yes to that, there's not really much else to dissect.
Yeah.
And I'd say this game gets a yes from that, from what we've looked over so far. There's more than enough here in this first couple chapters to build the game around.
Yeah, there definitely is.
But once we actually hit character creation, the thing I'm interested in seeing is how it's going to deal with the whole thing about future generations being your follow-up characters for when your current one goes down. That's what's got me interested right now.
Yeah, and we will get to that in time. I know this was a short one, but I don't think any of the introduction episodes of any season we've done have gone more than an hour.
Yeah. I mean, this is 36 minutes so far. That's about normal.
So, we'll be back here next week as we get into the hero's journey, the character creation part of Hellas. And, of course, tomorrow, Zan and I will be going into the introduction for Flux Fantasy. So, please look forward to all of that. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
신기